What is the story, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron, and this is going to be the 2022-23 All-Ireland Senior Club Hurling Predictions. If you enjoy this content, smash the like button, subscribe. Be very much appreciated. If you could share this out to your friends and family, that'd be very much appreciated as well. Always trying to grow the channel, and I do appreciate all the people subscribing, leaving comments, watching the videos, leaving a like, all the rest. It is very much appreciated, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Anyway, we're here to break down the All-Ireland Senior Club Hurling Championship. It obviously throws in more significantly this weekend. Obviously, we've had Ballygunner played Kilrowan McDonagh's. Ballygunner obviously wiping the floor with Kilrowan, beating them by 17 points. But, you know, it definitely gets into the nitty-gritty this weekend. With the Leinster Championship getting up and running, you obviously have the Munster Championship next weekend. And a lot of games really to run through. And I'm excited for the Club Hurling Championship, much like the Club Football Championship. It's obviously I think most people on the channel who follow this channel probably know I am certainly more of a football man than a hurling man. But look, we don't want to neglect the Hurling Championship. We want to break it down, give my opinions on it. My knowledge mightn't be as good as football, although, you know, some would say I don't really have much knowledge there either. But yeah, look, this is completely subjective. It is my opinion, as I always say with these videos, but do let me know in the comments down below if you disagree. And as well as that, you know, I don't know everything about every single club, but I will try and break it down in the best way that I can. I've done a lot of research, so some of you lads can find out about some of these teams. You know, some dark horses potentially in there as well. Who will be player of the competition? Who will win the All-Ireland Provincial Championships? Everything else. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So we'll start off with the Ulster Club Hurling Championship, mainly just to get it over and done with because, yeah, the knowledge of Ulster hurling is certainly not there, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, I've watched a good bit of Slot Neil down the years, and I've seen a good bit of the Antrim champions, obviously Dunloy and whatnot, and obviously Slot Neil having come through Ulster last year, and certainly going to be the favourites once again. But they will have to play Portaferry on the opening day, Portaferry of Down on the opening day in the Ulster Club Hurling Championship. The winner of that will then play Dunloy of Antrim. So, look, to be fair to Down Hurling and to be fair to Portaferry, first of all, I mean, Down Hurling has certainly been on the rise. I mean, Portaferry won the Down Senior Hurling Championship with 14 men versus Ballycran. Ballycran were the champions last year as well. You know, and looking at some key players that people have been speaking of, Ronan Blair, Conor Fay, have looked very good. And it is just their second Down title since 2014. And actually, as a matter of fact, Portaferry were the last downside to win the Ulster Club Hurling Championship. So Portaferry have a bit of history there. I'm sure they have some players that were there in 2014 that won the Ulster Club Hurling Championship. So we certainly can't discount them, but I think most people would look at Slot Neil as the favourites here. The reigning Derry champions are on the back of 10 consecutive Derry Championship wins. I mean, that is absolutely extraordinary. I'm not too sure if there's another club in the country at the moment at senior level that's won 10 in a row. You know, I know Kilcoo have won like 10 of the last 11 county championships and Down, but that's not 10 in a row, is it? So 10 in a row, quite incredible. They done what Celtic couldn't do, unfortunately. But speaking of, well, similar names with Celtic, Brendan Rodgers. I mean, we might know him very well of, yes, he was ex-Celtic manager, all the rest. Let's move away from that. He also plays for Derry, not the same Brendan Rodgers. It is a different one, but plays for the Derry senior footballers, as we very well know. Very talented fullback, very talented midfielder as well. He's also, you know, a very good hurler, as it turns out. Same with Chrissy McCaig, same with Shane McGuigan. A lot of these players, very, very good dual players. And that has been sort of the reasoning for Slot Neil's success in the sort of last 10 years or so. Brendan Rodgers playing more so in the forwards, half forward line, full forward line at different times. Very, very talented forward, great stick work, very good off the shoulder as well. And look, Slot Neil have won 4 of the last 5 Ulster Championships, so I don't think it's any surprise. I'm going with Slot Neil for the victory. You've got Dunloy of Antrim, who, of course, were actually beaten by Slot Neil last year in the Ulster Club Senior Hurling Championship. They've won 4 in a row in Antrim. They obviously beat Cushendall in the final. Got the likes of Conal Cunning, Keelan Malloy, Chrissy McMahon in there as well. You know, the knowledge is certainly not there of Dunloy. I'd probably know a lot more about Slot Neil, given the fact that, you know, they've sort of progressed into the latter stages of the Ulster Club Hurling Championship or sort of the All-Ireland Club Hurling Championship. They've got into the semi-finals and everything else. So I've sort of seen them play. I've seen them in the flesh, and I don't think it can be too much of a surprise that I'm going to be back in Slot Neil. Let's not forget they were only beaten by the All-Ireland champions Ballygunner by 5 points as well. Very underrated side. So for me, I'm going to go with Slot Neil to get the victory and win the 2022 Ulster Club Hurling Championship. So we'll move into the Galway Senior Hurling Championship then, because as we very well know, there is no Connacht Club Senior Hurling Championship because of the fact that the Galway sides are just significantly better than anyone else in the province, and it would be just a completely one-sided province every year, to be perfectly honest. So that's sort of the main reason for that one. I would be curious to know people's opinions in the comments down below. Like, is it fair that the Galway champions go straight into the All-Ireland semi-finals? I don't really think it's good for the Galway champions either. Like, I think, you know, you're sort of like, you're missing out on a provincial championship, which a lot of other teams get. You know, I've always felt that the Galway champions should just be put into Leinster, similar to how it works obviously at inter-county level, and then maybe have one semi-final, you know, one team goes straight through to the final. Maybe the reigning All-Ireland champions go straight through to the final if they come through their province. And then you have one semi-final as such. I don't know. Like, I'd be curious to know people's opinions in the comments down below on that one. But look, it will be St. Thomas versus Loughrea in the Galway Senior Hurling Championship final. I've certainly seen a good bit of St. Thomas play this year and a good bit of highlights and everything else. I mean, St. Thomas are the reigning Galway Senior Hurling champions. They're looking to win 5 in a row in Galway, which I believe has only been done twice previously in the Galway Senior Hurling Championship. So that would really show what a significant achievement it would be for them. They have the likes of Conor Cooney, very standout inter-county player in there. Cathal Burke, Éanna Burke. Éanna Burke's really sort of come to the fore for Galway in the last couple of years as well. They did cruise past Sarsfields in the semi-finals, but they did lose to Turlough in the group stages, and they were beaten quite comfortably as well. So St. Thomas have been beaten this year as opposed to Loughrea, which might maybe give Loughrea a bit of confidence going into the final. To be honest, I don't know too much about them. What I do know is they haven't won a title since 2006, and they were last in a final in 2013. But they have won every game in the Galway Senior Hurling Championship this year, including wins against Turlough and Clarenbridge. Clarenbridge were in the final last year. Neil Keary, Martin McManus and Joe Mooney are some of their standout players in there. But I am going to back St. Thomas. Look, they've won 4 in a row, as we very well know, and I think for a side like St. Thomas, who've been knocking on the door of the All-Ireland as well, they will obviously be playing the Ulster Hurling champions in the semi-finals, which I think gives a huge opportunity for the Galway champions to potentially make an All-Ireland final. Also gives a great opportunity for the Ulster champions to make an All-Ireland final as well, in fairness, avoiding, you know, what's going to come through Leinster and Munster, where I think the 2 best teams in the country are. But yeah, I just think St. Thomas have shown enough over the last couple of years. I know they were beaten by Turlough in the group stages. You know, I'm going to say that maybe this is a bit of a learning curve. You know, they had a big defeat there. They have the better players. They have the more standout players. Loughrea haven't been in a final since 2013, which suggests that St. Thomas have been the better side for, you know, the last sort of 5-6 years. Obviously haven't won 4 in a row. So I'm going to go with St. Thomas to come through there to win the Galway Senior Hurling Championship and progress into the All-Ireland semi-finals. Let's move into the Leinster Senior Club Hurling Championship then, and we'll start off with the quarter-finals. So it is St. Mullins versus Fern St. Aidan's. St. Mullins of Carlow, Fern St. Aidan's of Wexford. Ballyhell Shamrocks of Kilkenny will take on Castletown Gagan of Westmeath. Naas of Kildare will take on Shinrone of Offaly. Kilmacud Crokes of Dublin will take on Clough Ballacolla of Laois. And in terms of the semi-finals, it will be the winner of Naas Shinrone will play the winner of Ballyhell Shamrocks, Castletown Gagan, and the winner of St. Mullins, Fern St. Aidan's, will play the winner of Kilmacud Crokes, Clough Ballacolla. Starting off with St. Mullins versus Fern St. Aidan's. St. Mullins with their first county title in 3 years there in Carlow. Obviously, Mount Leinster Rangers have been sort of the dominant force there in the last couple of years. James O'Neill, James Doyle, and a one Marty Kavanagh are some of the standout players there. Marty Kavanagh's been, you know, one of Carlow's probably best hurlers ever, potentially. You know, he has struggled with injuries in the last couple of years, which is maybe why St. Mullins have struggled a little bit to get through Carlow. But he is a very talented hurler, make no doubt about it. And in terms of St. Aidan's, it was their first ever county title. Certainly in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of sides, you know, win their first county title. And I think Rapparees last year won their first county title in 60-odd years. I think Shalmaliers the year previous, you know, had certainly not been a dominant force in Wexford. So you're seeing this a lot in Wexford. Like, a lot of teams sort of coming through, young teams and everything else. Shows the competitiveness, really, of the Wexford Senior Hurling Championship. They have the likes of Paul Morris, Corey Dunbar, who'll be 2 standout players there. But I'm going to go for St Mullins on this one. I think with the likes of Marty Kavanagh in there. I remember St Mullins as well a good few years ago being in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship, causing shock surprises and everything else. They're certainly a tricky team. So I'm going to go for St Mullins to come through there. You have Ballyhale Shamrocks versus Castletown Gagan. Ballyhale Shamrocks are going to be obvious favourites here, and it's no surprise I'm going to back them to get the victory. In terms of Castletown Gagan, it was their first Westmeath title since 2017. They have the likes of Niall O'Brien and David O'Reilly are two of their key players there. But I think Ballyhale Shamrocks are going to come through there. I mean, 5 in a row Kilkenny champions. Obviously in the All-Ireland final last year, lost in heartbreaking fashion, but we only really have to go through the team, and I think we all know why Ballyhale Shamrocks are going to be serious favourites this year. 5 in a row Kilkenny champions, as we mentioned, but Joey Holden at fullback. You've got Evan Shefflin, Richie Reid and Dara Corcoran in the half-back line. You've got Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid, Owen Cody and Colin Fennelly all operating in and around that full forward line to the half forward line. Like, that is an incredible team. I mean, there's like 6-7 inter-county players in the one side, you know, and you think of some of the players that have come through Ballyhale down the years. A tremendous amount of talent, a tremendous amount of players. Could Castletown Gagan be on the end of a bit of a hiding here? Could Ballyhale Shamrocks put up a 15 to 20 point victory? They could do, to be honest, especially if they're in the mood. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a bit of a whitewash, and Ballyhale will win very comfortably, in my opinion. You've got Naas of Kildare going up against Shinrone of Offaly. Again, a lot of unknowns here, really, because Shinrone won their very first Offaly Senior Hurling Championship, and Naas, obviously the reigning All-Ireland Intermediate Hurling Champions, have never competed at senior level in hurling. So definitely a lot of if, buts and maybes here, and certainly a lot of unknowns, and a great opportunity for either one of these two to progress into the semi-finals. They will play the winner of Ballyhale Castletown, and I think we all very well know that will be Ballyhale. So, you know, that will be an experience most definitely for either one of these two. But, you know, big story for both of these two sides. Obviously Shinrone, you know, a Tipperary border club, you know, for them to come through Offaly, it was quite an incredible story. They've got, you know, like a lot of club sides, a lot of brothers in there. You've got Kieran Cleary, who I've heard is a bit of a tower run full forward. Declan Cleary, the captain, Michael Cleary, who was significant in Shinrone getting over the line as well. But the team I am going to back is Naas for this one. Look, they are the All-Ireland, the reigning All-Ireland Intermediate champions. You know, I'm not too sure if the quality level of Shinrone is that high. Again, the knowledge probably isn't quite there. But you look at some of the players on that Naas side, like Jack Sheridan, very good. I've been very impressed with him for Kildare the last couple of seasons. Brian Byrne, I think, is a very good hurler as well. So I really like the look of Naas, and, you know, obviously having lost to Kilmacud Crokes in the Dublin Hurling Championship, a lot of focus is now going to go into hurling, and, you know, I like the look of them. I think they're a very well run club. You could argue the fact that, look, maybe the quality of opposition they played at intermediate level and what they play in Kildare isn't that high maybe to what a Shinrone would play in Offaly, but I just have a funny feeling that Naas are going to get the job done here. So yeah, I'm going to back them to get the victory. You have Kilmacud Crokes versus Clough-Ballacolla, a repeat of what happened between these two last year in the Leinster Club Hurling Championship. For those of you who do not remember, Clough-Ballacolla turned over Kilmacud Crokes. It was a big surprise, a big shock, and certainly a result that not many people seen coming. Kilmacud Crokes will be favourites, maybe so, I'm not sure. Maybe with Clough-Ballacolla having won last year and having gotten to the Leinster final as well, maybe some people will be looking at them to get the job done here. But look, this is a very hard game to call, I'm not going to lie. I think Kilmacud Crokes are a better team than what they were last year. I think last year they were probably very over-reliant on Ronan Hayes. They've refreshed the team up this year and brought a lot of younger lads through, but at the same time, they didn't look particularly brilliant versus Na Fianna. Clough-Ballacolla, on the other hand side, you look at the players on their side. Stephen Picky-Marr was outstanding last year. You know, what a hurler he is, what a talent he is. Willie Dunphy, Willie Hyland as well. Some very good players in there as well. And for Kilmacud Crokes, like, they just didn't really impress me versus Na Fianna last year. Like, or in that county final, I didn't think they played particularly brilliant. You know, I know they've got the likes of Oisin O'Rourke and Alex Considine's look very good this year. Dara Purcell in midfield, Davy Crowe at wing back, and Eddie Gibbons in goal. I think are probably putting their hands up maybe to come into the Dublin panel this year. But it's a hard one to call. Like, Crokes haven't been brilliant versus Na Fianna, but in a similar fashion maybe to the footballers, Like, they've shown that they are a very, very good side. They've shown they can click into gear. They've shown when they've gone down to 14 men in that final versus Na Fianna, they have what it takes to get the job done. I think there'll be a chip on their shoulder going into this game. They certainly won't underestimate Clough-Ballacolla. So for that reason, Kilmacud Crokes will win and go through to the semi-finals. Semi-finals would leave Kilmacud Crokes versus St Mullins and Ballyhale Shamrocks versus Naas. Look, I think Ballyhale Shamrocks are going to get the job done versus Naas. I think that goes without saying. And then Kilmacud versus St Mullins. I think it will be close. It's another banana skin for Kilmacud Crokes. You know, is Dublin hurling at the highest level at the moment? I think club hurling's at a good level. But then again, you know, obviously Coola down the years were a very, very good side, as we very well know. But Kilmacud Crokes, there's a lot of if, buts and maybes with them. But I think they're going to get the job done versus St Mullins. But I think Ballyhale Shamrocks will have a significantly more in the Leinster final. You know, I think that's where, in my opinion, you'll see Ballyhale Shamrocks click into gear even more. And there just isn't enough of a challenge in Leinster, in my opinion. That's why I'd like to see the Galway champions come in, because I think it would make Leinster a lot more interesting. But Ballyhale just have far too much talent. And for this young Kilmacud Crokes side that I think have the potential to dominate Dublin over the next couple of years, I just think this will be a learning curve for them. And I think for Ballyhale, yeah, they'll go through to the semi-finals, I've no doubt about it. So we move on to the Munster Senior Club Hurling Championship then. And as we very well know, Ballygunner beat Kilrowan McDonagh's in the quarterfinals. 419 to 14 points, a 17-point victory, commanding, and a very, very brilliant victory by Ballygunner. Kilrowan were obviously playing 3 weeks on the bounce, so I mean, I'm sure that took a toll, and won their first Tipperary title, I think, in 40 odd years. So I'm sure there were celebrations. Training probably didn't resume to halfway through the week and everything else, but you can't take away Ballygunner because they are a serious, serious team, and they actually, you know, with the addition of Patrick Fitzgerald in that full forward line, they look even better than last year. And look, the clash of Na Piarsaigh, what a game that's going to be. For me, the two best sides in Munster. Na Piarsaigh, obviously the reigning Limerick champions, you know, have come through Munster in the past before, have gotten to All-Ireland finals and everything else, and are a very, very well-run club. And you look at the players in that side: Adrian Breen, Mike Casey, a fullback, Peter Casey, David Dempsey. You know, you're looking at potential matchups in there. Could you have Mike Casey picking up a Desi Hutchinson or a Porrick Matney? You know, you're talking about an inter-county matchup there at the highest level as well. You know, some of the best hurlers in the country. It's going to be very, very fascinating. And, you know, there is a general consensus that this could be a banana skin for Ballygunner, you know. Like, have they really been tested all year? Probably not. Could they maybe have a flat performance in them, like we have seen sometimes in Munster through the years? Like, they have had a habit of, you know, maybe getting caught in the early rounds of Munster. Could that potentially happen here? I'm not sure. I mean, you could have Ian Kenny maybe picking up Peter Casey as well, which I think would be a very interesting matchup. I just think Ballygunner, having come through the All-Ireland in the way that they have last year, winning the All-Ireland championship, they start games very, very fast. Is the quality of club hurling, you know, in Limerick, like, do they have teams in there as good as a Ballygunner? I don't think so, to be honest. You know, like, I think Patrick's well haven't been performing the last couple of years. You look at how comfortably Na Piarsaigh beat Kilmallock in that final. I just think Ballygunner for me. Look, I could be wrong here. There could be a surprise. There could be a shock. We've seen it in the Club Hurling Championship down the years. But for me, Ballygunner are a significantly better team. And I think it will be close, but I'm going to back them to come through. We've got Ballyea of Clare versus St Finbarrs of Cork. St Finbarrs obviously winning their first hurling championship in 20 odd years, and that was absolutely huge for them. Ballyea, as we know, a very dominant side in Clare in the last couple of seasons as well, and they were in the Munster Club Hurling Championship last year, beaten by Ballygunner, as a matter of fact. So look, it's a big opportunity for either one of these two to get to a Munster final. St Finbarrs obviously have the likes of Damien Cahalan at centre back. Conor Cahalan's in there, Jack Cahalan, Brian Hayes, a couple of Cahalans in there. A lot of very, very talented hurlers who play with the Cork senior team. For Ballyea, I mean, they have the very obvious Mr. Tony Kelly, but they do also have the likes of Niall Daisy in there. Aaron Griffin as well, I think, is a very tidy forward. So it's going to be a hard one to call, to be honest. I mean, Cork Club Hurling probably has been criticised a lot of the time in the last couple of years, and, you know, it maybe hasn't gone that well when they've gotten through to Munster. But can they turn over Ballyea, a side who have the likes of Tony Kelly in there? I'm not sure. I'm going to go Ballyea on this one. Again, my knowledge maybe of Finbars isn't quite as good as what I would like it to be, but I'm going to go Ballyer. And in terms of Ballygunner versus Ballyer, I think even if it is Ballygunner versus Finbars, the Gunners will come through Munster. I think, Na Piarsaigh will be a significant test. I'm sure it will ruffle their feathers a little bit. It will keep them nice and cosy and warm going into this final, I think. And, for a Ballygunner to have that test, to come through that test, it will stand to them. It will stand to them. And look, they start games so quickly at times, as I've mentioned, with Desi Hutchinson, Pádraig Mahony, Patrick Fitzgerald, Mikey Mahony as well, Kevin Mahony. Like, there's just so many great hurlers in this Ballygunner side. Peter Hogan as well, whether he's playing in that half-forward line or midfield. Like, the talent levels in this Ballygunner side are just absolutely off the charts. And I just don't see a world in which Ballyer can stop them. Let's not forget as well, Ballygunner absolutely wiped the floor with Ballyer last year. I remember watching that game and it was effectively over after about 15 minutes. Ballygunner, were in absolute cruise control. So, I think there is a big difference between them and Ballyer. Look, Ballyer didn't have Tony Kelly last year. He was injured, in fairness. So, be interesting to see what kind of, who they would put maybe on Tony Kelly. That would certainly be an interesting matchup I'd like to see. But I'm going to go with Ballygunner to come through Munster. And that would leave an All-Ireland semi-final of Slot-Neil versus St. Thomas and Ballygunner versus Ballyhale. It's very interesting because for me, you've got the two best teams in the country by a distance, in my opinion, on one side of the draw, and Slot-Neil versus St. Thomas on the other side of the draw. So, look, Slot-Neil versus St. Thomas, Slot-Neil, could they catch St. Thomas under the radar? We've seen it happen before. We've seen Ulster club hurling teams down the years just produce shocks, produce surprises when we don't see them coming. And like St. Thomas, I think they've had their eyes on an All-Ireland for a couple of years now. Like, they've won the 4 in a row in Galway. Obviously, according to my prediction, they'll now have won 5 in a row. I think they'll have too much for Slot-Neil. I really do. It'll be interesting to see as well what happens with Slot-Neil in terms of, I'm sure Rory Gallagher will want a lot of those players back training for the Derry senior footballers. It'll be interesting to see sort of what happens there. But I'm gonna back St. Thomas to get the job done. Look, it will be close. Slot-Neil beaten 5 points by Ballygunner last year. We've seen them down the years. Like, Ballyhale have struggled with them as well. They're a very difficult team to put away. I think it could be extra time, but I'm going to go with St. Thomas by the smallest margins. Ballygunner versus Ballyhale. Oh my goodness me. What a game. The repeat of the All-Ireland final last year. The two best teams in the country by a significant distance, and very hard to call. It's no surprise. Look, I think the winner of this will win the All-Ireland. Maybe like St. Thomas or Slot-Neil, they'll be going in under the radar, to be fair. And how many times down the years do you see a team go under the radar, be underdogs and pull off a victory, and the favourites maybe don't live up to the hype? And the fact of either side that comes through this will feel like they have one hand on the All-Ireland in many ways, which might be of detriment to them. It's a big game. Look, Ballyhale, as we know, were beaten last year in the All-Ireland final by a dramatic late goal from Harry Ruddle. One of the moments of the year in Gaelic games, in my opinion. It was just it was a massive surprise and shock, and certainly something that we didn't see coming in terms of how late Ballygunner left it. It's very rare you see that in an All-Ireland final at any level. So it was absolutely incredible. We obviously seen something similar with Kilcoo and Kilmacud Crokes in the football final, but very hard to call. I'm going to say extra time. It could even go to penalties. Like, this will be a very close game. I am going to go for Ballyhale though. I might change my mind by the time this game comes around. Like, obviously, I think when we see teams in their provincial championships and how they're playing, I think we'll know a lot more. But if I had to put my neck on the line right now, I'll go with Ballyhale. I just think having that chip on their shoulder from last year, having lost the final, and I thought they were the better team last year as well, to be fair. I thought Ballygunner were actually quite flat at times in that match. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Ballyhale, but obviously when this game comes around, we'll know more. But at this moment in time, Ballyhale for me. And Ballyhale versus St. Thomas in the All-Ireland final. Look, as I said there a few moments ago, how many times down the years have we seen teams come in under the radar? Like, Ballyhale will be massive favourites, having won the, having beaten Ballygunner. And even if Ballygunner come through Ballyhale, it'll be the same scenario for them as well. They'll be massive favourites. And, sometimes you see teams when they have the favourites tag, they sometimes don't deliver, but we've seen Ballyhale deliver time and time again. You know, favourites in Kilkenny, favourites in All-Ireland finals in the past. You know, I think having lost the final last year, they won't underestimate St. Thomas. You know, they'll come into this knowing they need to get the job done. They obviously beat St. Thomas last year in the All-Ireland semi-finals as well. So, yeah, I fancy Ballyhale to get the job done, and I think they will win the All-Ireland. I think with TJ Reid, Adrian Mullineux and Cody, like, how do you stop those lads playing? Like, do you know what I mean? And even thinking about Ballyhale versus Ballygunner again, like, the matchups there are just absolutely extraordinary. They really, really are. But, yeah, I'm going to go for Ballyhale Shamrocks to win the All-Ireland. I think, as I said, chip on the shoulder from last year, and I think they'll want to right the wrongs of what happened. And, you know, obviously Ballygunner's pressure and intensity of the way they play might be a problem for Ballyhale in the semi-finals, but I'd go with Ballyhale to get the job done. In terms of Club Player of the Year, I'm going to go for Owen Cody. I think he's been very good for Ballyhale Shamrocks. TJ Reid is the obvious one, but I'm going to go for Owen Cody. Desi Hutchinson's been in flying form for Ballygunner. Patrick Fitzgerald's obviously looked very good as well. You know, for St. Thomas, Conor Cooney, you'd imagine will have a big year, and there'll probably be other lads in there that we haven't heard of just yet for St. Thomas that I think could really make a big impact. Maybe a Chrissy McCaig or a Brendan Rodgers of Slotneil as well. So, yeah, let me know your opinions in the comments down below. As I said, this is just my opinion as just a regular GAA fan. The same as yourself commenting in the comments down below. But let me know in the comments, what do you think? Who will win the All-Ireland? Who will be your dark horses? Potential dark horses, look, Slotneil, dark horses. Are they a dark horse? I don't know. Do you know, but they could get to an All-Ireland final. They could possibly win it. Although very, very unlikely. Like, you couldn't see them be a Ballygunner or a Ballyhale. Like, let's be honest. You know, in terms of dark horses, like Loughrea maybe. I don't know. But let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? What are your predictions? And my name is Aaron. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all later.